Welcome, everybody, to the Sheridan Report on the Grueling Truth Sports Network. The Sheridan Report is brought to you by Seat Giant. For a 5% discount on all your ticket purchases, make sure you put in the promo code TGT. Also brought to you by the Handicapping Guide. Make sure you check them out halfway down the gruelingtruth.com page on the right-hand side if you bet the ponies. I am your co-host, Mike Goodpaster, and I'd like to welcome in my co-host, Bobby Sheridan from the Sheridan Report. How you doing, Bobby?
I'm doing good, Mike. We're rolling along here. We're having positive days in the MLB, and we're just going to keep it rolling. We got a 3-team mix and match again this morning that looks good. I've added a game, and we've got 3 straight plays. I'll give away at least 2 of them, and I really like the top play. We're going to bounce back from yesterday's top play loss, and we're going to have a winner today for him.
Hey, but the Reds beat Justin Verlander.
That's right. The Reds beat Verlander, and the Twins beat the Red Sox as a home dog. So we hit 2 out of 3, and we lost the top play, but we hit those 2. Mix and match was 2 out of 3 again yesterday, and that's on a nice run. I think that's 8-1, 9-2, the last 11. Maybe better than that. Maybe 13-3, something like that. 14-3, 15-3, something like that recently. So let's keep it going, Mike.
All right, Bobby. What do we got today?
All right, the mix and match, Mike. We got the Diamondbacks tonight at 6:40 Pacific. That's with Zach Greinke. They're at $1.50 now. That's Greinke off of a loss. He's been scary good this year. Just continues like a fine wine to be able to pitch and get guys out, and no matter what. So we like the Diamondbacks at home off a loss there with Greinke. And then another valued favorite is what these mix and matches are, would be, and I'm scrolling down, would be the Minnesota Twins. They played the 17-inning game last night, and they wound up winning that. And, those there's no way around that. You've got to win those. You play 2 games in one night, you burn the bullpen, and you do everything else. You're killing yourself. Both teams are, but you've got to at least come away with the win. And I think Minnesota will be able to respond to that quite well with Gibson today on the mound. So I think they'll be a nice solid play if we can have it going to them at 5-10 also. And then I added a game. Detroit is going to play Pittsburgh, and these are 2 pitchers coming back off of injuries. Trevor Williams had a side injury, and he's their ace. And Detroit was supposed to throw Matthew Boyd, so I really tried to look at the Tigers first in this matchup, and then it became Jordan Zimmerman. Zimmerman making a start off of his 2 months off with bad elbow. So automatically Pittsburgh at anything less than $2 became an add-in for me on the mix and match. So I like the Pittsburgh tonight over Detroit facing the right-hander, get the matchup we want. And I like the National League team hosting the American League team who loses their DH, and I like Pittsburgh in this ballgame tonight. So there's your 3-teamer, your mix and match: Pittsburgh, Minnesota, and Arizona. That's pretty solid, Mike. So pencil in 2. Hopefully we get the 3rd one.
All right, Bobby.
The straight plays. Yeah, the straight plays. The Giants, Mike, are plus 235 tonight. And to me, if you look at San Francisco's throwing a left-hander Pomerantz. And Pomerantz has gone 10 consecutive innings without giving up an earned run. All right, so that's all right. We know he's throwing the ball well. We know that their bullpen can get the job done. They have 4 good relievers down there. They didn't have to dive into anything last night. It was a blowout loss. Close win, game 1. Blowout loss, game 2. Now we come here. Okay, we got Bumgarner going on the mound tomorrow. Is going to give him a shot. Now, can they take a second game in this series? Well, you would think Bumgarner would be the right spot. That'd be tomorrow. He's your more solid pitcher, obviously. But if you look at Pomerantz, like I said, 10 innings, no earned. That's against the Dodgers and Milwaukee. That's 2 playoff teams, right? We got the lefty going against the Dodgers. That's a positive. And we got Rich Hill. Rich Hill, good pitcher, solid pitcher. Every time the Dodgers throw somebody out there, he does a job. But he's more of a 5-inning guy, 6-inning guy. That's what he averages, about 6 innings on the year. And, that leaves us some room for air at the end. And I think, why can't our lefty match their lefty in a nice 2-2 ball game, 3-3? Any type of situation that where we're in the game going into that last 3 innings, I think we got a big shot at plus 235. So basically it's the value here, Mike, with 2 rival teams that look to me to play 2 close games to finish this series now. And I think San Francisco can get one of them and split it. So would not surprise me at all. So we'll take the 235. Now, I'll go to the top play because I definitely want to give that out tonight. And that's the Royals. The Royals, they went, Mike, 16 series in a row on the road where they were 0-14-2 in terms of winning that series. They split 2, lost 14 series. They won their first series, which was last series. And I'm trying to remember who that was against. I just do all this off of memory. I can't remember. Maybe I can look it up here in a quick second. But anyhow, they've already won their second in a row. They beat the Mariners last night, which gave them the 2-0. They're going for the sweep. And if you look at Kansas City, Brad Keller is throwing lights out right now, 15 innings, 2 earned, 9 strikeouts. He's giving them a great chance to win every night out. He's actually got his ERA below 4 now. And Kansas City, this is a team that's playing their best baseball of the year, obviously. They're doing a great job. And they're facing a left-hander, Marco Gonzalez, who, if you look at his latest starts, you've got 3 of the last 5. Let's see, 3 of the last 6 have been non-quality starts. That means he gives up more than 3 earned runs and pitches less than 6 innings. So, to me, you got Brad Keller, boom, 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 3 great ones in a row. You got Gonzalez, 50% of the time he's going to give you a good shot, 50% not. You got Kansas City playing their best baseball. You're going to give them an underdog price of plus something like 116. And right now I'm looking it up. It's plus 112. The only downside was they lost their shortstop for tonight. Mondesi is going to be out. He's got a little bit banged up yesterday, but that's okay. They'll plug somebody in. And when teams are going well and starting to play well, the guy they plug in will get to it tonight. That's baseball. So I like them tonight, Mike. I think they're a solid straight wager. You can put them in with any type of a mix and match situation and have a really good chance in this game tonight. So let me go ahead and give out the last card, the last game on the card as well. I'm looking that up now, and that's the Mets tonight. This is the National League East game. And, another thing in baseball, we talked about the shortstop situation for Kansas City. When you're starting to play well, you just plug that guy in. Well, when aces do their job for teams, such as DeGrom did yesterday, that tends to set everything going well for that team. Aces start streaks and they end streaks. They end losing streaks, they start winning streaks. Aces save your bullpen. Aces put everything in line. They give your team confidence. And the Mets, Atlanta put on a great run. They had a great run. I don't remember what it was, something like 12-1 or 14-3 or something. Huge run. And now, okay, they come home in this homestand. They have a blowout, nice one on Monday, blowout loss yesterday. It's still hanging in the balance this series. And I think the Mets are on track now to possibly snag this one. It's a battle of left-handers tonight. You got Steven Matz, for the Mets. And this is a nice price now going against Max Fried for the Braves. Now, if you look at Matz, all right, you look at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 straight starts, 6 innings. Exactly 6 innings. And you've got 1, 2, 3, 4 of those are quality starts. 3 earned runs or less. You turn over to Max Fried, and you go left-hander, all right? He can't get to 6 innings. He's gone to 6, 3 of the last 7. But you're looking at 1, 2, 3, 4 non-quality starts in the last 7. So you got one left-handed pitcher that's getting the job done. And you got one left-handed pitcher who's a young guy who's kind of not after a huge start. So you look at changing landscapes. You look at the Mets with their ace riding the ship yesterday. this is a team that's trying to get themselves back to 500 and make another push. We've got Mets, the Padres, the Diamondbacks would be 3 teams to me that this next month is so important. Are they buyers or sellers? And that's huge in the direction the organization goes. Are we looking at next year, or are we going to still try to make a run for the wild card? So it's interesting, Mike. This is the time of year baseball to me gets interesting. It's neat time right here before the July trading deadline, and so I like the Mets tonight at a price. So the underdogs are doing well. We're 9-6 our last 15, so we're okay, and I think we can hit 2 of these 3 tonight. Maybe sweep them, who knows? But the Giants are at plus 235. That would be a coup. I do think they can split either tonight's or tomorrow's with Bumgarner and split that series. So if you're just jumping in, that's okay. You hit one of these next 2, you get a nice profit. Hit the top play tonight with the Royals. That would be huge. And then the 3-teamer mix and match, those are all coming through. So baseball is in good shape, Mike. Feeling good about it.
And the Reds aren't in last place anymore. So I told you they're going to make a run as soon as it starts to get warm. It just never has gotten warm. All right, Bobby, on this day, what do you want to talk about? I know we got a couple things.
We got a couple, Mike. I'm excited for them because we got a boxing and we got a basketball that involves Indiana. So the boxing will go first. 1992. This is an older Holmes against Holyfield. Tell me about this one.
All right. Evander Holyfield was on the 1984 Olympic boxing team, which is one of the 2 greatest Olympic boxing teams in U.S. history. 1976 and 84 are the best. Holyfield, I think, was the most impressive fighter there until he fought a guy from New Zealand by the name of Kevin Barry, who he hit kind of on a break. The referee ruled that it was a foul. They disqualified him. He ended up 3rd place. Anton Josipovic was the guy that won the gold medal because Barry, the interesting thing, since he got knocked out, was not allowed to fight in the Olympic final a couple days later because he'd been knocked out, and there was a rule about how long you had to have in between fights. So the thing I remember there is Josipovic actually pulling Holyfield up on the stage with him and, sharing his Olympic glory with him. And Lucas just asked a question of where do I rank Evander Holyfield all time. We will get to that, Lucas. All right, so he starts his pro career November of 1984 against Lionel Byarm. This was on ABC's Night of Gold, and the interesting thing about Lionel Byarm was he looked exactly like Joe Louis. And this also was a fight where it was on the undercard with Pernell Whitaker, Meldick Taylor, Tyrell Biggs, all the guys that won gold there. He then starts off his career with Byarm, who was 9-1, was a decent fighter. He then fought Eric Winbush in just his 2nd pro fight. Winbush was a guy that a year or 2 before that had upset the great Matthew Saad Muhammad. And he goes up, he beats Tyrone Booz, who was a good fighter. Anthony Davis, who was ranked in the top 10, and this was in like his 7th fight. His 8th fight after that, he beat Shishanda Muti. And Shishanda Muti was a guy that would, I think a year before that was the Cruiserweight World Champion. The interesting thing about how Muti won it is he fought a guy by the name of Leroy Murphy from Chicago. And you remember the Rocky II finish where Rocky and Apollo hit each other and they both go down in the last round and one of them has to get up and they win? That is how Muti and Murphy went. I think Muti lost to Murphy that way, where they both get knocked down in like the 11th or 12th round, and only one of them got up. After that, he beat Terry Mims, who was a veteran but not very good. And then in 1986, I think it was June or July, I remember it was the middle of summer because I remember watching this at the Omni in Atlanta. He won a split decision over Dwight Muhammad Qawi. Qawi was a great fighter. He'd been the light heavyweight champion, or a portion of it for a few years, lost to Michael Spinks, moved up to cruiserweight, won the cruiserweight title, and then these guys fought a 15-round fight because there were still 15-round fights at that time. Holyfield was only in his 12th fight. Qawi was a veteran, 30, 35 fights, and probably 15 of them were for championships. He had just recently disposed of Leon Spinks, who he battered and beat senseless. And Holyfield wins the fight of the year in 1986 against Qawi in just his 12th fight. He goes on to basically run this division. In 1987, he fought the Olympic gold medalist Henry Tillman, who he was friends with. He knocks out Tillman in 7 rounds. He beat Ricky Parkey to win the IBF title. He beat Ozzy Ocasio, who we've talked about on multiple shows, to win the IBF and WBA titles. And he beat Dwight Muhammad Qawi in a rematch in 1987 by a 4th-round knockout. He beat Carlos Sugar de Leon to become the undisputed champion. And they move him up, and he beats James Quick Tillis, Pinklin Thomas, fights a fight of the year against Michael Dokes, and basically runs the gamut here and becomes the #1 contender. And the big fight in 1990, at the start of 90, everybody's talking about, is Buster Douglas against Mike Tyson. Now, the only thing was, they were talking about Holyfield and Tyson. The only thing was, Buster Douglas threw a huge roadblock in that in February when he surprisingly knocked out Mike Tyson. So Buster Douglas was the #1 contender, and instead of Tyson getting an immediate rematch, Buster Douglas gave the rematch to Holyfield because there was more money in it, and you didn't have to deal with Don King. Buster, of course, was out of shape, got starched in 3. Now, Holyfield caused a lot of people to question the validity of his championship just because he beat a fat, bloated James Buster Douglas. And then his first defense is against a 41-year-old George Foreman. And George Foreman gave him hell. It was a great fight. But the thing about it is, Holyfield was 208. He stood in front of Foreman and fought with him. Took every shot Foreman could throw. And, I mean, he got, shook up a couple times, but never in really any danger. 7 months later, he fights Burt Cooper. Burt Cooper was a stand-in. And Burt Cooper's a guy that just recently passed away. He was a great guy. And there was nights where Burt Cooper looked like smoking Joe Frazier. There were nights when he didn't. This is a night when he did. Now, this was supposed to be for the WBO title, so Holyfield would have had all the belts. And what happened was Francesco Damiani, who was the super heavyweight gold medalist in that 1984 Olympics for Italy, was supposed to fight Evander Holyfield, but he got injured. Burt Cooper stood in. And Burt Cooper put Evander Holyfield down in like the 4th or 5th round, and Holyfield went life or death to beat him. So what we got is he beat a fat guy to win the heavyweight title. He beat an old man in his first defense. He beat a journeyman who knocked him down in his second defense. His third defense, he fights Larry Holmes. Now, the thing about that is, in 1992, he fights Larry Holmes. Mike Tyson and him were originally scheduled to fight, I think, early 92. Mike Tyson got hurt, had to pull out. Larry Holmes steps in. And Holyfield pretty much dominates the fight, but once again, less than impressive. Holmes goes 12 rounds with him. 5 months later, he fights the #1 contender, Riddick Big Daddy Bowe, who was a 1988 Olympic silver medalist that lost to Lennox Lewis in the gold medal round. And one of the greatest heavyweight fights of all time. You can go on our Facebook page and actually see the fight. Riddick Bowe wins a close decision and knocks Bowe down. I think it was in the 10th round. The 9th or 10th round. Ended up being one of the greatest fights you're ever going to see. And Bowe won the title with a majority decision against him. Now, the next fight out, Michael Moore is who he's fighting. And Michael Moore beats Evander Holyfield. At that time, Holyfield had had some problems with his heart, and doctors actually said that he had an enlarged heart and wouldn't be able to fight anymore. Evander went to Benny Hinn, the sham artist, acts like he's a healer down in Atlanta, and all of a sudden, he supposedly heals him. Holyfield comes back and beats Merciless Ray Mercer, who was a hell of a fighter, beats him by unanimous decision in a great fight, and then he gets another shot at Riddick Bowe. And, he beat Bowe in the second fight in 93, lost his title against Moore. I jumped ahead of myself a little bit. Then he got a third fight against Bowe, lost again, and he ran out of gas and got knocked out in the 8th round. And after that, he fights Bobby Ches. He dominates the fight, but Bobby Ches is a blown-up light heavyweight. Nobody really thinks that Evander Holyfield has anything left. That is why Mike Tyson gave him a shot, because Mike Tyson didn't want any part of Evander Holyfield before Holyfield looked old. I know I've talked to some people, Kevin Rooney being one, who used to be in camp with Custy Amato and Mike Tyson, and I guess they brought Evander Holyfield in like 1983 or 84, and they sparred, and Holyfield whipped his ass then. And Holyfield dominated his fight. The thing is interesting, Holyfield was like 215, Tyson was like 225, 230, and Holyfield was a stronger fighter. So whenever they would get close, just to keep Tyson from throwing those vaunted hooks, Holyfield would just grab him, wrap him up, and walk him backwards. And he was just significantly stronger than Tyson. He wore him out, and Tyson was left trying to find his teeth on the ring mat in the 11th round. They fought a rematch. The rematch was one of the most anticipated fights in boxing history. Holyfield starts off whooping Tyson's ass again. Tyson quit, and he quit by biting part of his ear off. Holyfield beats Michael Moore. And then he loses 2 fights to Lennox Lewis, and he went on forever, and every once in a while he would beat a contender. And the fight with Larry Holmes, though, the thing that stood out to me was at that point in time, nobody really took Holyfield seriously because his title defenses were against Foreman and Cooper. He struggled with Larry Holmes. And the great thing about Larry Holmes is Larry Holmes, right before that, had beaten the number 1 contender, Ray Mercer. This was after having 3 or 4 years off after the Mike Tyson fight where he didn't have enough time to prepare. Larry Holmes, after this fight, went on to beat guys like Maurice Harris, who was a top 10 contender. He got one more shot at a portion of the heavyweight title against Oliver McCall in 1995 and lost a razor-thin decision, which if he would have won, he would have been the heavyweight champion. And I think he would have been about the same age that George Foreman did it a year earlier. And the coolest thing about Larry Holmes is he fought Butterbean in 2002. And when he was 50 years old, he won every round against Butterbean. Just beat the hell out of Butterbean. That was his last fight. I think it was Butterbean's also, because then you couldn't run the sham anymore of him being a real fighter since he lost like that. So that's my story of Holyfield and Holmes. And if I had to rank Holyfield, Lucas, I would say probably somewhere between 5 and 8.
Okay, then let me take it a step further. Where's Larry Holmes?
Larry Holmes, to me, is number 3.
Yeah, I knew you were going to have him in the top 5.
Yeah, because Larry Holmes is a guy that the competition wasn't stellar, but there's not many heavyweights that have had stellar competition while they were champion, except for guys like Ali, Frazier, because they fought in the 60s and 70s when the heavyweight division was the best. But with Larry Holmes, this is a man from 1977 to September of 1985, beat everybody put in front of him. And the thing about him is, I'd rank him ahead of Lennox Lewis because Lennox Lewis got upset twice where he got hit, knocked out. And the difference is, Holmes got hit by Ronaldo Snipes and Ernie Shavers, exactly like that, got up and won. So I would probably put him at 3 after Ali and Lewis. And I think this, though, I think after Ali and Lewis, 3 through 10, you could have just about any way, and I would be good with it as long as Mike Tyson's not in it.
I love that. And Joe Frazier is in there, right? Is Joe Frazier down towards the bottom of that?
I would put, I think this, and you could say this also about Riddick Bowe. The night Riddick Bowe fought Evander Holyfield the first time, it'd be hard to find somebody that could ever beat that Bowe. With Joe Frazier, March 15th, 1971, that night, he may have been the greatest fighter that ever lived, because he beat Muhammad Ali. And it wasn't Muhammad Ali necessarily at his prime because he had the 3 years off, but it's as close to his prime as you could get. He dominated Jerry Quarry and Oscar Bonavena, who were both great heavyweights also in their own right. I think if Jerry Quarry was alive today, he would dominate the division, as long as he was 25, as long as he wasn't alive in like 80. But when I look at that, I would put Holmes at 3. I'd put Ali and Lewis at 1 and 2. I'd give the Ali the edge over Lewis just because of the competition he fought.
Yeah. Okay, Mike. Do we have time to do one more?
Yeah, we can do one more. I'll keep it short.
Okay. All right, I would love to, because this involves Indiana basketball, but not the Hoosiers. This is the Pacers. 2000.
Yeah, and I would like to bring this up. Lucas give me crap because we're not bringing up the one where LeBron was down 3-1. But hey, Lucas,
Yeah.
do your own show. You can talk about whatever you want. And remember this, if everybody was healthy with Golden State 20 years from now, we could do it on this day talking about how the Raptors lost in 6 to the Warriors.
Hey, but
Was
that's
that
not
mean?
the way it went down, Mike.
I know, but I'm just telling you, if you get them injuries, that's probably how
Toronto
it
in 6 was a beautiful thing, Mike.
goes. Hey,
A beautiful thing.
yes, it was.
Okay.
All right. Now, a lot of
2000.
people expected the Lakers with Kobe and Shaq to reach the finals. If I remember right, they had a hard time in that series, or in the playoffs. I think they were taking 5 games by Sacramento, which I think was a best of 5 at the time, and they won Game 5 pretty easily. They drubbed the Suns. Then they played the Portland Trail Blazers, and that went 7 full games, and I still think, Dick Bavetta screwed the Trailblazers out of a chance. I mean, the Trailblazers were up 75-60 in the fourth quarter. Lakers rallied back, 25-4 to win the game and get the berth in the finals. The Pacers were a team that in '94 had shocked everybody by making it all the way to the Eastern Conference Finals, came just 1 game short of going to the finals. 94, then 95, they beat the Knicks. They lose to the Magic in 7 with the same Shaq that we're going to talk about in a minute. The team had a lot of injuries after that, losing a 5-game series to Atlanta. And then in 99, they got beat in probably one of the biggest upsets in playoff history when they lost to the Knicks with the bullshit Larry Johnson 4-point play. And then we get to 2000 where they finally take care of it. I mean, they went to 7 against the Bulls in 98, got screwed in Game 7 by the officiating, similar to the way the Blazers got screwed over by the Lakers. Jalen Rose had replaced Chris Mullin in the starting lineup, and he won the NBA's Most Improved Player. Austin Crozier, I think, became the 6th man that year. The Pacers started off the season a little bit slow, but made it to the playoffs, kind of ran through there, dominated the Knicks. I think it was 5 or 6 games. I think it was 6 games. It was kind of reversed to the previous year in 99. And then you go to the finals, Game 1 in L.A., June 7th, I believe it was. I remember that because my son was born June the 6th, and we had issues with him there, so I kind of remember the dates on all these games. But they lost Game 1 pretty big. I think they lost by 17, 18 points. Game 2 was much closer. And the thing here was, this was the game where Kobe Bryant had to leave the game in the first quarter due to a sprained ankle. Jalen Rose later admitted that he did intentionally stick his foot out when Kobe shot a jump shot in order to trip him when he landed. It's sad that the injury wasn't worse. And that's mean, but damn it, I'm a Pacer fan. We've got some ABA titles, but nothing NBA-wise, and the Lakers have plenty. Game 3 at Conseco Fieldhouse, Reggie Miller goes off 33 points to cut the series 2-1, and then you get Game 4, where the Pacers come out, dominate early, but this is the game where I believe Shaq fouls out midway through overtime, and we think we're about to make the series 2 games all. But Kobe Bryant, who was only 21 years of age at that time, hit 3 clutch shots. And they were basically the backup center, if I remember right, for the Lakers was John Sally, who was like 147 years old by then. And Rick Smith was just owning him. And Smith and Miller scored all of Indiana's overtime points. I think it was like 14 or 16 points. But Miller missed a late second three-pointer. L.A. was able to pull one out in L.A. That ended up being the difference in this series. And Shaq was the only finals MVP to foul out until Steph Curry fouled out in Game 6 of the 2016 finals, which was played on the same day because Lucas gave me a bunch of shit like that. But then you come out in Game 5, the Pacers dominate the game from the start, and it was Larry Bird's last game as a head coach in the state of Indiana. The Pacers pulled away, beat them by like 30 or 40 points. We go to Game 6, and I remember my big thought was maybe Reggie can go off. They can get Game 6, force it to Game 7. Then maybe Reggie can go off. But it was not to be. It was a much closer game. I think the Lakers won this game by 4 or 5 points. And if I remember right, the Pacers jumped up early, and the Lakers just kind of kept chipping away. The Pacers, I think, had a small halftime lead. The fourth quarter, the Lakers got 4 timely three-pointers from Derek Fisher, Robert Horry, and I believe it was Rick Fox. And that ended up kind of being the differences in the game. The Lakers built like a 7-point lead. The Pacers fought back to tie it at 103, but they never could get back over the hump. I think the Lakers went on like a 6-0 run. And you had one more valiant effort by the Pacers that I think got it down to 2 or 3. They just never could get over the top on there. Shaq led the team with 41 points, 12 rebounds, got the finals MVP. But this was a really good finals. You had Game 4, I think, was the game that solidified to me that Kobe Bryant was a great basketball player, because you get in the way back machine there and you go check out Kobe Bryant in that overtime without Shaq in Game 4. He solidified how great of a player that he would become.
Yeah, I remember that too, Mike. And my recollection is that this was a 2-3-2 format, right? The Pacers had the 3 in the middle at home, and Pacers covered 5 of the 6 games in this series, but lost 4 of the 6, of course, as you just said. And you know, the Game 7 prior, the Portland Game 7, you brought up that 25-4 run. That was just a killer. I remember personally, I had a really big series bet on Portland, and they were Game 7 at L.A. and had that 65-50, as you said, or 85-80 or 70. Or, it was a 15-point difference, I know.
Yeah, they were up like 85-70 or 86-70, and then the Lakers went off on them. But it's the same as if you go watch the Game 7, 1998 Pacers-Bulls. Pacers won that game. But when you let the other team shoot like 20 free throws in the fourth quarter to the other team's 4, you're pretty much deciding who's going to win the game. It's, as Steve Risley would say, a conspiracy theory. But I think it's a conspiracy theory that's true. They weren't going to let Jordan lose before the finals. And I don't think they were letting the Lakers lose before the finals either.
Yeah, I can agree with that. And I remember going into the Indiana series here, I was all over Indiana. I really thought that they would have a shot, in this series as well. And I remember I did not take a series bet, though. I took it game by game, and they wound up covering 5 of these 6. I'm almost positive. So it was a close series. And
yeah, I think the only game they didn't cover would have been Game 1.
Yeah, I agree with you. So anyhow, Mike, that's good stuff. I appreciate the boxing, and Holyfield being where you wound up ranking him. That was pretty big accomplishment for what he did in his career.
All right, Bobby. We're going to go ahead and wrap it up for today. I want to remind everybody to go follow Bobby at Sheridan Report on Twitter, thesheridanreport.com on the internet. Make sure you check out the handicapping guide with Phil Rankin. If you're going to play the horses, no place better to do it than there. So we will be back tomorrow, guys. And make sure you check out Inside Boxing Daily tonight, as we'll have boxing author John Raspani, who helped write the definitive book on the Gotti Ward trilogy, Intimate Warfare, with Dennis Taylor. So make sure you check us out at 11 o'clock tonight with that. But for now, I want to remind you can hear all of our shows on iHeartRadio, iTunes, TuneIn, Spreaker, Stitcher, Spotify, wherever you find sports podcasts. You'll find The Grueling Truth. So, for Bobby Sheridan, I'm Mike Goodpaster. You've been listening to The Grueling Truth, where the legends speak.